Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social Podcast, a midweek episode in which we will cover a bunch of news, and with me here to do that is Issam.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We'll cover a large variety of topics. If you want to skip to the one, make sure to use some of the timestamps. There are chapters on Spotify and on YouTube, and else you can find the timestamps in the bottom. We'll cover things from the Nacht van Woerden to the potential programs of Van Aert, Van der Poel, Pieterse, Backstedt, Pidcock's transfer, and a whole bunch of stuff. But let's start with the Nacht van Woerden, where I was yesterday and I recorded a short audio report from the ground. Hello everyone and welcome to this special episode of Now in the Fields. I'm on my way to the Nacht van Woerden. It's the third consecutive year I'm attending and the third consecutive year we are covering it on the podcast. It should be an interesting night of racing. It's at night. There's a fair around, Kermesse. You can really call it a Kermesse cross. It's quite nice and it should be a good night of racing. Pim Ronnaar starting his season here. Lars van der Haar going for, I believe, 8 wins in a row. Philippe Ors is there. Michael van Toerenhout on the women's side. Nies Betsema is racing. Fem van Empel is also racing, looking for her second win of the season. So it should be interesting. I'm currently on my way in the train. I like to attend this race, or any race actually, in the train. It's a relaxed way of transportation, and I'm also taking maximum advantage of my student transportation pass, which is expiring after this year, unfortunately, because it means I can travel to these races for free.
Deze dame die de laatste ronde in gaat.
Ze kwamen dus inderdaad hier voorbij ging en dat was het verbeterde gezichtje hoor, daar van Lucinda Brandt. Die heeft duidelijk haar zin gezet op een mooi lekker stuk kaas hier in Woerden. Zij wil de winst, zij wil de overwinning van deze Remco Nacht van Woerden. Dat is duidelijk.
The women elite race just finished. We had Lucinda Brandt taking the win. It was actually a quite close race. For most of the race we had 5 or 6 leaders. In the final lap, 3 riders distanced themselves, or actually in the penultimate lap, Marie Schreiber, Luxembourg champion, attacked. She opened the gap. Then Brandt followed, and Van Empel in the final lap, Van Empel got dropped. It's a very technical, short, straight circuit, very hard to really get away. It lacks any form of decisive feature. So in the end, it resulted in Brandt taking the lead in the final lap. It was a bit hard to follow, but she took the win ahead of Schreiber and Van Empel. Denise, Nacht van Woerden, we saw you overtake a lot of riders during the race. How did it go for you?
From the start it was really hard because I had a bad start and then it's really small, the course, and I felt okay, but not so okay to go in front. So yeah, it was a hard race, and also the dark is difficult.
Yeah, they try their best with the lights, but of course it's not the same as when you race in Beringen and you can see everything. Last season you had a very bad accident on training before. How did you deal with that during the season? Because I imagine it must be hard to struggle with the consequences of that.
Yes, it's really hard. Last season was also bad, not the results I hoped for, and also this season starts not how I hoped it, but I have the faith to come back, and I felt better and better. So I hope every race will going better, and then I will be back, I hope, in the end of the season.
Yeah, we always know that you get better as the season progresses. Final question, what are your goals for this season, if you have any?
I think I have to look race by race. But of course the championships, the end of the season will always be a goal. But yeah, we will see. I think every place more in front in the results will be good for me. So.
Okay, it's getting cold. I'll let you go. Have a nice evening and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lars van der Haar, die zijn al eerder de zevenvoudige winnaar van deze Remco Nacht van Woerden. En gaat momenteel de hand en voeterij aan de leiding. Ook weer voor de tempo gevonden. Dit is kampioen van Spanje. Dat is natuurlijk Philippe Ors. Die mag hier juist weer voorbij op de stuk de nieuwe ritme. Stegen.
The men's race has now also concluded, and actually it was a walk-away victory for Lars van der Haar. I was still doing the interview with Betsema. When I came back, he was gone, and really, he was never in any sort of danger. It was a very, very strong ride by him, confirming his strong form early in the season. We've seen him, of course, win in Beringen, and we saw him do well in Ruddervoorde, but today just a completely different tactic. Went right off the start. In his post-race interview, he said he wanted to catch any of the riders racing for the first time here by surprise. 8 consecutive wins for the Dutch rider here in Woerden. Second place went to Michael van Toerenhout, and there was an impressive third place for David Haverdings. The U23 rider did very well and was the only one able to keep up with Van Toerenhout for the final part of the race. He took the third podium spot after being dropped in the penultimate lap. And as we are making our way through all the people coming from the kermesse next to the course, that will conclude this short audio report from Noah in the fields. It is 10 p.m. right now, so it's definitely time to head home, because tomorrow plenty of work and uni stuff to do. Back to the studio. So that was the audio report from the Nacht van Woerden. Issam, I was there. You weren't. There was a YouTube stream of questionable quality. What do you want to know about the race? I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I mean, I saw some impressions on the story, and like something that I kind of didn't really understand, because there were some places that were a little darker than other places. I mean, what is the visibility like for the riders on the ground? Like, are they able to manage and negotiate the course pretty well, or is it somewhat tricky at some places?
It's definitely something that takes adjusting to. I heard a number of riders say that were racing there for the first time, oh yeah, it is really quite difficult. Most race with a clear visor, so kind of like Formula 1 drivers switching to a blank visor when it's raining. But it is still tough because, as you said, some parts are more lit than others. There's photographers working with flashes, there's spectators. You come into this section, which is literally right next to the kermesse, which has all types of laser lights and other colored lights, and even smoke from some of the attractions coming onto the course. So it is quite difficult to cope with. The biggest issue, however, on the course wasn't really the visibility. There was this one corner, I would say about halfway through the lap. It was right in front of the Visma Lease Bike bus. And there was this corner where you came from grass. The grass was moist, it was wet, and you went onto tarmac at quite high speed, and you had a left-hander there. And because the mud and moisture of the tires came off there during the day, the corner became super slippery. I think in the juniors race, about 10 people crashed there. And then in the woman elite race in the first lap, Brandt, who was in the lead, nearly crashed there. But Bakker, who was in the final wheel of the leading group, did crash there. It was super tricky. They tried altering the corner a number of times, but only at the men's elite race they managed to find a solution that actually avoided crashing. And that was not due to the light, that was just due to the trickiness of that corner. It is really a Mickey Mouse circuit, Issam. There's no real feature. It's a very fun race, don't get me wrong, but there's no features. They use every single centimeter of grass they can find there. They break every single UCI rule regarding the course. It's a fun event, but at the same time, Betsema, she said it well, after my bad start, I just didn't want to risk anything, and that is very, very valid, because not the visibility issues, also just all the other things together make it a tricky race.
One, I'm very interested about how his performance was. I mean, he finished in fourth with the men elites. It was his first outing again this season, Pim Ronhaar. I mean, it's difficult as a bystander and someone spectating to really have an idea of how he is doing at the moment, but what did you make of his race and how it went for him?
Woerden is a very tough race to start your season. I mean, we've said it when we were talking about Beringen. Beringen is a rough season opener with the elevation. The new course is more balanced, so it's better, but still. Woerden is also an extreme course to start with, because there are a lot of corners. It is very tricky. You are on the limit. There's a lot of tarmac grass corners and sections, which it's horrible. I mean, if you're on your cyclocross tires trying to get onto tarmac, it's always a bit sketchy, but especially here when the grass is a bit moist. It wasn't that muddy, but still the grass sticks to your tires. So I would say Ronhaar looked very decent for his first race. He didn't have the physical capabilities to keep up with Van Toerenhout and Haverdings for the entirety of the cross. He got dropped after about 40 minutes of racing. I would say it's an encouraging start for him. He acknowledged himself that he still has work to do, but it is a promising start. I mean, Van der Haar is the master of the course. He, as I said in my audio report, just went off at the start trying to catch others off guard who weren't comfortable on the course. That worked. Van Toerenhout was definitely the second strongest, raced a bit on economic mode. And Haverdings, I would say, was impressive. He led the charge in that chasing group from about 30 to 40 minutes to go. Only Van Toerenhout could follow, and then he settles for third, his first elite podium. But overall, very, very good outing for the Baloise Trek Lions with 1, 3, and 4.
By the women's race, one thing that I noticed was the 3 riders of SD Works with Marie Schreiber, who has already a couple of races under her belt, Catablanca Vash and Lorena Wiebes. What did you make of their races? I mean, Schreiber was close to Brandt, eventually finishing in second. For Vash, it was her first race back. Very solid result, I would say, for someone that had to negotiate that course. What do you make of those two? I mean, and also Wiebes in a way, if we take her also in this conversation.
Well, so the women's race last year, Van Empel won in the final lap as well. It was not a walkover victory. It's very hard to break away here on this course because where are you going to break away? It's just straight away, easy corner, another short straightaway. It's super easy to sit in the draft here. There's a bunch of tarmac in the course as well. Van Empel made a mistake in the final lap. I think this just confirms what we said in Ruddervoorde. If it's not pure strength, at the moment Van Empel is lacking a bit. We'll see what it brings in Overijssel, we'll see what it brings on the Koppenberg, but I think we should be in for an entertaining European Championship. Schreiber will be racing the U23 race there, which I think in some way is a shame. Courses like Woerden and the European Championships are good for her, but she rode a very impressive race. She was chasing for the best part of half of the race after a bad start. I think she was lined up on the second row, or at least there was something going on in the start because she wasn't the only one to be caught back. But she was chasing quite a lot. Then she took the lead. In the penultimate lap she placed an attack. Van Empel and Brandt followed. Brandt took the lead in the final lap. Schreiber followed for a while, but eventually had to let go. But considering her efforts earlier in the race, I thought it looked very good. She already took 2 wins in the Coupe de France. She's very, 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 very good at the moment, and I'm curious to see what she will do at the European Championships. That U23 title should be within reach. She'll face a number of other riders there, but we'll keep that for the preview. Then Vash, that was impressive as well. Very, very good outing in a first race of the season. Same points as applied to Ronhaar also apply here. I'm curious to see what Vash will do. She is going to race Overijssel, a race she won when it was a World Cup. She's going to race the Koppenberg, and then she's going to go training. And she's going to improve towards the start of the World Cup. I have quite high expectations for Vash this season, and I don't only say this because of this. I think she can win in Overijssel and she can win on the Koppenberg. Those are very good courses for her, and she looked very good last year. It's a very, very, very big shame that we didn't see her there in Tabor, Issam. She had COVID infection, I think, or some sort of illness, but she was second in Hoogheid, and she's a peaker. We've seen it this summer. She peaked towards the Olympics. She was good at the World Championships. She's good where she wants to be good. Of course, stage winner in the Tour de France Femmes. And she looked solid. She didn't have it at the end, but for a first race of the season, very good. And then you finally asked me about Wiebes. I mean, that was just kind of leaving me without words, because she became track champion, world champion scratch just a week ago. Didn't race on the cyclocross bike once. Was gridded like on the 4th row. And just kept overtaking rider after rider, and then just barges through the field, overtakes Manon Bakker. Okay, she crashed, overtakes Laura Verdonschot. Okay, not a good course for her. Is in front of Betsma all race. Okay, Betsma had a horrible start, but still, she's beating these riders. She's beating full-time cyclocross riders. She wasn't too far after Aniek van Alphen. Yes, there were a lot of straightaways, but this is by far her best result of the season, and all SD Works riders impressed me here.
I'm trying to find another question that I'm interested in knowing the answer of. I mean, it's hard to go off this race in terms of the results and what we have seen with a couple of riders, because as you said, it's a course that is not really your typical cyclocross race. It's a bit of a Mickey Mouse course, as you said, and it's going to be interesting of how much of this will translate into the next couple of weekends. I don't think much, but obviously with the on the men's side, Van der Haar winning yet again, showing that he definitely didn't lose any of his form from the weekend, and Brandt, putting the stamp again on the fact that she has good legs and that the form and the shape is very good, and that's going to be interesting, the trajectory where they are going to be heading in the next couple of weeks, and also with the Europeans coming up. So, I mean, I don't really have any other questions. I mean, if there is someone you want to point out still that you think is worth mentioning, I mean, go ahead.
I would like to say that in the men's race, I thought it was a very, very good ride by Mees Hendricks, 5th place. Last year, he got let go by Crelan Corendon. They released him. He didn't perform. He only broke into the top 10 3 times last season. Okay, admittedly, the field didn't go very deep here, but I thought it was a promising result for him. He will need to do a bit better than he did in Ruddervoorde and Ardooien with a 15th and a 16th place. But this result here in Woerden did seem a bit better. He wasn't too far off Ronhaar and was with Haverdings for quite a large part of the race. And then I will need to do some complaining, Issam, and that is not about Woerden, but more about the Belgians, because who else would I need to complain about? But I'm a bit sick already, and the season is only 2.5 weeks underway in Belgium, of the complaining about the international part and the ease with which they talk about all of that. So this weekend the Exactcross is in Heerde, and the Belgian commentators have been complaining about how far that is. Come on, it's a 2.5 hour drive from Belgium. Please, behave, act normal. The Belgian commentator was asking why Italian riders were racing in Essen. They are from Tuscany. Why aren't they there just doing a training ride and drinking cappuccino during the training ride? Come on. And then in the pre-season, like the season interviews they do, there was this big complaint about the Koppenberg cross being 2 days before the European Championships, and I will also complain about that, but for the opposite reason that they are complaining. Yes, it's a very tough logistical transfer to make from the Koppenberg to the European Championships because they are in Spain. But please, don't talk like the European Championships need to go to a different date. The Koppenberg refuses to adapt its date because they always organize on the 1st of November. And look, I get it, that's tradition, and I get it. It is hard to find a different date on the calendar at the moment. But the European Championships are a bigger event, in my opinion at least, than the Koppenberg Cross. And there's a jersey at stake there, and it's a big meeting for the juniors and the other youth. Like, all this complaining, and then the final straw was just that they were talking about the UEC Youth Cup, which was in Hungary this weekend, and they just had the audacity to say, oh, Sir Nys was there. If he just talks to a few people, easy, we'll have a World Cup there next year. The disconnection from the struggles of international organizers, the money it takes to organize a World Cup, the idea that you can just go back to Poprad, you can go back to Espach, you can go back to all these other places like Igorre, that these races still exist, that these organizers are there, that they have money, that everything revokes around Belgium, but if you want to, if you please, you can go there, but then when you need to go to Heerde to commentate, it's too much of a drive. It's already getting under my skin.
I'm still waiting on that sketch of the Hong Kong World Cup, to be honest. I mean, the disconnect is there, and it's unfortunate, to be honest. And the bigger issue is probably that Belgium has a big influence on the sport. They are probably going to be the most important party to grow the sport and make it an international sport and have all the eyeballs from the entirety of the world focused on cyclocross, and I think that you need Belgium as a country to support that in terms of changing the mindset in a way. And it's a difficult situation, and I can totally understand your frustration, and I'm frustrated too. But this is a trend that we're seeing that has been going on for quite a while, and it's probably not going to change anytime soon. And I hope I just hope that maybe we can see some changes at the top, and then it would already be better for the sport. But yeah, it's if certain commentators are going to be complaining about a 200-kilometer ride, or I don't know even how long it will be for them, but if it's going to be 300 or 400, that doesn't mean that your world is going to end. That should be a transfer that should be, quite easily done by car or whatever. And hey, look, it's the complaining is there, and we are complaining about them complaining, and it's just it's a mess in a way, and hopefully they get it together a little bit, and they're not that disconnected as they are at the moment, and who knows, maybe we'll have better days, but I don't see it at the moment.
What also plays a role here is that I'm just tired by the polarization in this type of debate, because whenever somebody argues for we need to work on re-internationalizing cross, the immediate defense of the talking heads in Belgium is, oh, but we need cross in Belgium. Like, I agree, but nobody is saying that we don't need cross in Belgium, but it's about finding a balance. And if you're a serious sport that wants to go to the Winter Olympics, you cannot have a World Cup which has 6 out of 12 races in Belgium and 2 further races on 5 kilometers from the border with the Netherlands and Belgium. So that basically means that 8 out of the 12 World Cups are in pretty much the size of a post stamp if you compare it on the European map. So that's something that I would like to see change, and we're going to talk about something positive, because there are positive things on the international scene. Let's talk about the first race weekend of the Coupe de France in Nome. Very traditional course, Issam. You remember it from the World Cups, that is for sure. I would like to have your opinion on this, because there were 175 junior men racing, and the opinions are mixed. There's a lot of people that say, oh, it's too much, it's a money grab, we need to have fewer riders. On the other hand, a lot of figures in cyclocross, and I would include myself on that part, they cherish the fact that there's so many participations. Adrie van der Poel is one of them, but there's many more, Camille van den Berg, for instance, and they are super positive because it shows that many riders have the possibility to develop and race. What do you think? 175 riders, Nome, a very wide course, too much, or a sign of just the flourishing youth scene in France?
Well, it's definitely a sign. It's great to see. I don't know, as a rider, if you're starting 135th, if you are going to be very happy that you had 175 starting, but or you have a mechanical lap 1 and you have all those riders passing you and you need to pass them back, and I think that it has its ups and downs. I would argue that it's probably, especially for the youth categories, it's a fantastic thing to have. And like, what do you need to do then? Are you going to exclude several riders, or are you going to organize a A and a B race, which could be a little bit possible, maybe based on ranking, but that's
not allowed for UCI rankings to have 2 junior races on one day. So then there's a non-UCI race, and the schedule is already packed. And I would want to add that they already have selection quota for these Coupe de France races. Each region, depending on how many juniors they have, gets a number of quota, and then I don't really know how the selection works for that, but they have a selection document with a number of quota spots for each region in France. So there are already riders excluded.
So then I think this should be something that should be cherished, and I think it's a nice thing to have, that those riders are all possible to race. I mean, I can remember, it's a very different topic, but I can remember when I was doing the track and fields, and you have these track meetings, and especially at the somewhat bigger places, and you go there and you have like 25 series of one distance, and then every series had like 12 or 13 participants for an 800 meters. I mean, that's when you have those meetings, it's just great to have all the competition there, and you will meet a lot of people, a lot of athletes, a lot of, the entourage is just insane. It's crazy to have, and I think it has probably more positive than negatives. I think for the riders, it's maybe a bit of a shame if you are somewhere in 10th and you have a mechanic, as I said, and you have all the riders passing you need to pass them back. But I think it has its charms, and you will learn from those races. The experience will be insane for all those riders, and no, I think it's in many ways a good thing. I definitely, when I saw it in the weekend, I was quite happy and entertained to see it happen, and I think it's a good thing in a way.
50 junior women, 75 men under 23. I would say that I think it's a good thing because also, let's be honest, you know what you're signing up for. You know these fields are going to be massive as a junior man. And if you don't want to do that, then you just sign up for another race. So I think they're old enough and mature enough to deal with that. And probably if you're gridded towards the back, there's also a reason for that because you've been selected as one of the last riders for your region. So all of it would make sense. Then I want to move topics. We're still staying in France to the AS Bike team. It's a team that's been around for 5 years now. I have acquired their magazine. It's right in front of me now, Issam. I like the way that the AS Bike team is being run and being managed. They have a heavy priority on promoting women's cycling, trying to give young women opportunities. They also have men, so it's not similar to Vondermeulen or the Keusterbouwpunt these days, I must say. It's not, Vondermeulen is gone for a long time. I don't know why that came up, but it's a long-standing team with 5 years of history now. And what I like is that unlike some other cyclocross teams, they know when it's time to move on. And they are ready to make the tough decisions of letting Helene and Perrine Clausel go because they know that they would need to invest in the next generation. So in this case, that means that on their team they have Célia Géry, who's a first year U23, last year's Junior Women's World Championship, but they also signed a number of junior women who have been doing very well this season so far. Lise Revol has been doing very, very well for the team, and they also have Jeanne Duterne on the team, and she finished third. Both are first year juniors, and we'll see more of them this season. Now, why am I bringing up this team? In their magazine, it says that they have started a partnership with FDJ Suez, and this partnership allows Célia Géry to race on the road for FDJ Suez and in cross for AS Bike team. So they use the expertise of FDJ Suez on the road, and they use the expertise of AS Bike team in cross. FDJ Suez has acquired Lars Boom as a director sportive. I wonder if he will start playing a role in this team. I think this is a great step, and this is the future for many cyclocross teams, that they are in some way or form affiliated with a road team, because you see that if you don't do it, your riders jump to other teams. Perfect example of that is the Charles Legois team. It was affiliated to Wanty. It is affiliated to Wanty actually, but they don't have a women's team. So what do Schreiber and Backstedt do? They jump ships. Molegraaf, she signs a 3-way deal, but I can imagine with this partnership with FDJ Suez and the AS Bike team that they will want to move Molegraaf to that team as well. What do you think about that?
It's an interesting development because, as you said, we have seen in the past riders jumping ships when they get the opportunity to go to a more complete package, if you can call it like that. And I think that that's a natural decision, I would say, for any talented multidisciplinary driver to make. I think that if a rider is wants to pursue more than one discipline and wants to be both able to be active on the road and in cyclocross or cyclocross and mountain bike, which is something that you could combine a little bit easier, but still you would rather have a more complete package. And I think that these partnerships, as you said, is maybe something that we will see more and more in the future with other teams as well. But as you said, I think that with AS Bikes, the way they have set up, the way they are investing in the youth, the French youth mainly, but which is a normal thing. But they have a very good eye for talent. They have it looks to be that they have the financial abilities to pursue the talents and to also maintain those talents within the team. And I think these kind of deals that you make with several teams, or not with several teams, but with a team is definitely, good for the development of the riders that you have there. And if you can make something good out of that, I think that is very possible. And yeah, it's a positive development for sure. And I think that this is something that we will see probably several teams make. But, obviously there will only be the teams that obviously have those talents available and that have the eyes for the talents and really want to develop those guys and girls as well to become the future in a way. And so it's gonna be a situation in which a team A needs to find a reason to invest or have a deal with Team B, and that's probably how it's going to end up in the next couple of years. But for now, this is definitely a great deal.
Well, you can see that, for instance, a person like Jurgen Metpenning, who's been very hesitant to this, is now also open up to this for his woman, because if he doesn't open up to this, they will leave. He lets Leonie Bentveld race with AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep on the road, and that helps Bentveld. So you see, if you don't open up to these type of interesting collaborations, especially on the women's side, where there's just an enorm grabbing at talents because there's so much growth there that they want every single talent because they are just very good riders, and there are not many riders. There's a big shortage there, supply shortage. So you need to be open to this, and I think that this is a very wise decision by the AS Bike team. And I already said it, I like the way this team is being managed. They are not afraid to make the tough decisions. They don't stick around with riders just for the sake of having them around. Oh, we've had you for so long. No, they're not afraid to make that decisions. They really run it in a way like I feel a team should be run, and that is quite promising. Then let's move on to the next topic, the programs. We've been having a lot of people asking us, when are Wout van Aert, when are Mathieu van der Poel going to start their season? I've been reading this and I've been reading that. Issam, I don't know how you think about this, but my advice would be believe nothing of what you read, because it's just speculation. I don't really want to join that speculation. People are saying, oh, Van Aert will do 15 races because he's injured, and Van Aert has said he will do cyclocross. Van der Poel has been a bit more unclear. He said, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no, I will see, I haven't made a decision. When he signed his deal with Canyon, he said he would remain active in cyclocross. We don't know. I think that's the bottom line. We don't know. If Niels Albert says A, but Sven Nys says B, and Bart Wellens says C, but the pundit here says D, and then another person says E, it's just all speculation. We don't know, and I think we shouldn't talk about it until we do know.
I can say F if you want to. No, but as you said, the speculation is something that we should leave to the ones that love to speculate. I think that for all we know, that we will probably see them somewhere along the line this season. When and where is just up for debate, and I don't really know. I cannot even predict races and race results, so let alone when someone is going to return in the season. But I think that it will be interesting when we know what their season program are going to be, what the goals are going to be, and for how long. If this is something that we will see for the foreseeable future. If this is going to be a trend where we have to kind of wait up until somewhat. Maybe the end of November, maybe December. Is this going to be how they will go about with cyclocross for the next couple of years, or that we maybe can see some changes in that regard? I think that is how are they going to be practicing cyclocross in the future. And looking at this, I think that we'll probably end up somewhere where they will always kind of jump in somewhere in December or end of November.
I do think that is a given. We'll see more and more riders like Van Aert, Van der Poel, the multidisciplinary riders, start later. The World Cup shift to later will only further accommodate that, and we now also see it with Puck Pieterse. Finally, something we can talk about because it's not a guess. Puck Pieterse has said she will start her season in Herentals or Namur. That's in December, so finally a proper rest period. I am very pleased to hear that. I'm interested to see when Backstedt is going to start her season. Her plan was apparently to use her final block of road racing as preparation for the cyclocross season. So you would kind of expect her this weekend already at the start with a blitz campaign towards the European Championships. But maybe the plans changed. Maybe it was never in the offing and it was just to build volume, and her win in the Ladies Tour was a surprise. We'll need to wait and see for that. Somebody, and again this is a guess, but I feel a bit more confident here in making the guess that we likely won't see him, or definitely not in a serious way, is Tom Pidcock. He's the world champion of 2022. The season after, he had that great Christmas campaign in which he nearly won the Super Prestige in Diegem. he is apparently going to be staying with Ineos after a whole transfer drama saga. If he was going to leave, he was unselected for Lombardia, and then they wanted to sell him, but the negotiations didn't come through. What do you make of that entire Pidcock situation, Issa?
It's a mess. It's a total mess. I kind of feel for him a little bit because we have seen definitely some good moments from Pidcock on the road. But at least I always kind of had this feeling that I felt that a bit unsatisfied with his results, that I wanted a little bit more from him on the road, and I feel that he's probably thinking about taking the road a little bit more serious next year and trying to get even better results than he has done before. Currently, at the moment, I think that partnership with Ineos is completely broken. I don't think that's going to be mended. And even if he's going to stay there, I don't think it's going to be good for any of both parties if he stays there. So he probably has to leave, and he probably has to find somewhere else to go. And then it's going to be the question where, and are they going to be able to facilitate for him a program in which he's able to do both the road, cyclocross, and mountain bike, of course. It's a tricky situation that he is in, because you never want to be working at a company that doesn't really want you, and you don't really want to be there. It's a mess. Something that you don't wish any rider to be in such a situation, and I don't know. It's gonna be a tough one, and you just have to hope that maybe Ineos is going to find the situation too difficult to deal with, and tries to assist him in a transfer, which could be the case. That we will find out about that somewhere along the line of this winter.
Well, those talks have apparently ended because they did try and assist him in a way out, but they didn't reach it. Cycling News reported that Pidcock was in talks to join Visma, but those negotiations fell short because Visma didn't want to bring on the entourage of Pidcock. There was a report on Sporza that Pidcock works with his own trainer. We know that's Kurt Bogaerts, but that he also has his own doctor and his own mechanic and those type of things, and that Visma didn't want to deal with that. To me, Pidcock says he wants to take road racing more serious, go all in. I can understand that, and I'm not going to discuss that part, but I think the biggest issue for Pidcock is that he thinks he can win the Tour de France, or at least podium it, and I don't think he has that potential. He's quite far from it. So far, it's not really gone his way in the Grand Tours, but let's say everything comes together. I think his potential at most is a top 5. I think he's just wasting a good career as a stage hunter, as a rider who focuses on the Ardennes. He can try and take the cobbled classics a bit more serious. I don't think he's the type of rider for Roubaix. I know he says he despises cobbles and can't deal with it, but his omloop this year was quite promising. So maybe Tour of Flanders is too hard for him, but those type of races, at least focus on Amstel Gold Race, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, then do the Tour as a stage hunter or something like that. I think that's where the problem is. He thinks that that's his potential, and I think that that's completely the wrong way to go, focusing on a GC, because he will just sacrifice a very good career in the hope of scoring at most, if everything comes together, a top 5. And then I'm talking there needs to be a number of riders who crash out, number of riders who fall ill, because his real level, I think, is just a bottom end top 10 rider in the Tour if he remains fit, which is another issue. And his whole thing of I don't really want to work for anybody is, of course, a bit amplified by that kind of scripted-ish Netflix thing where they took some quotes out of context, but there are other reports that do indicate that he does not really want to work for others and wants to be a leader. So to me, his priorities are wrong, and that's the biggest issue. And moving teams, especially if you want to bring your own staff, isn't going to change that, especially if he's going to be talking to the teams as Visma and Red Bull. Then how is it going to change? If he goes to Visma, what does he expect? That Vingegaard is a domestique for him? That's not how it works. So I don't really see how any of that makes sense from his perspective. But good, it is what it is. I don't think we'll see a move this year, but of course next year this story will come back because maybe there will be teams that are willing to pay part of his contract, or the situation with Ineos becomes so unworkable that they do decide to end their contract. But it's looking quite grim, and with his comments of I'm going to shift my focus to road cycling, I don't think we'll see him much, if any, in cyclocross, let alone in a serious way. And I think we can kind of say the same for mountain bike for the upcoming years. He's just going to maybe come back for the LA Olympics, but for now he's going to focus on road, and whatever that brings, that remains to be seen. Good, then I think we have had it for this episode, Issam. We had a lot of different topics. We will be back this weekend with a podcast about Heerde, which is super far away. Good news for Elisabeth, he is allowed to start in Heerde. There was a bit of a miscommunication apparently in his sanction. It's what I said, he was suspended for a time period, not a number of races. And Paul Sousa thought the suspension was Saturday to Saturday. It was from Friday to Friday. But also going around in the Belgian media is that the suspension was only communicated to the team when Iserbyt was already in his camper van and almost in Essen. So I think that was quite strange to read, actually.
Yeah, quite a strange situation. But, we will be back, and probably we won't get a notice from the UCI on our podcast that we are not allowed in suspension of some sort. So yeah, I guess looking forward to Heerde and looking forward to that race, because it's gonna be televised now. I think it's gonna be the first time televised in such a way, obviously. I mean, it has had its streams, but it's now gonna get some proper broadcasting, most likely.
Yeah, last year was the first time. As a UCI race, it had a stream. I think the year before it also had a stream, but they were with like a number of webcam-ish cameras. So it should be interesting. It should be a race kind of like Mol, kind of like Hofstade in the past. So I look forward to it. That's on Saturday. On Sunday, Overijse, the mother of all crosses, as they say in Belgium. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, indeed, the UCI doesn't suspend us for our critique on the Belgian pundits or the World Cup, but if you don't hear from us, we have been suspended by the UCI. Thanks for listening. Leave a comment and hopefully we won't be suspended. Goodbye.